right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us all here for another edition of our Telos Live this month. Thank you. It's good to see so many of you and good to see a lot of familiar faces who have come to join this little session on harnessing the energy of manifestation. And while we're here, I just want to thank you once again for being here. And first of all, I just want you to give me a bit of a head nod if you can hear me. So Sunny, I can see you, and Marsha, that's great. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I just want to tell you a little bit about Telos Live. But before we do that, I'm going to just bring on my co-pilot for tonight, the lovely Ella, who's going to join in a moment, and she can come in and say hello. So Ella, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Hi guys, it's so good to see you all. Welcome on our Telos Live and with Matu Apiata.
Excellent. And we're looking forward to a great night. I know there's quite a few of you who haven't joined us for one of these sessions before. So before I bring on Matu and introduce him to share in our session tonight, I want to just give you a bit of an overview of what Telos Live is and also how these afternoons or evenings actually run, depending where you're joining us from. So look, Telos Live really started at the beginning of this year as something that Ella and I were inspired to bring together some great teachers, spiritual masters, people who are growing and developing in, I suppose, their consciousness to come in and share with our community. One thing we realized very early on was that, there's a lot of great insight and knowledge in this world. And there are many teachers being called to hold the space and to hold the light for that energy. And Ella and I, when we first started the Flame of Eternal Light, were kind of guided to create a community to bring together heart-centered and conscious individuals. And so over this last 3 years, we've slowly been growing this community across this state, and even have brought in some great speakers from overseas and also from interstate this year. So we really look forward to once a month getting together and sharing knowledge, sharing insights, and sharing inspiration. So tonight, before we begin, I just want to let you know how tonight actually works on the Telos Live. To start off with, I'm going to introduce our speaker in a moment, who's Matu, and just welcome him in. And then together, Ella and I are really going to have a bit of a fireside conversation with Matu about our topic tonight, which is manifestation, and how to harness the energy of this manifesting consciousness. Once we've done that, then halfway through the session, probably around 8 o'clock tonight, we'll actually open up the group and hand over to Matu, who's going to share some teaching or inspiration and even some meditation. And that will take us through the second half of today. And then at the end, we'll actually open it up for any questions that the group actually has for Matu while he's with us. So what we do ask is, please just keep yourself on mute during the first half until we actually open up at the end of today for any questions, because that will just keep some of the background noise out of the way. So let me begin by introducing Matu before I bring him on screen. And just forgive me, there's still people coming into the waiting room. So I'm trying to multitask as well as a man can do. But let me introduce Matu. A lot of you know Matu. I was on platform at a spiritual church with Matu a few weeks back, and I really felt this calling to invite him to come and share with us tonight. And Matu's been someone who's been on a spiritual journey for a long time. Last year, I actually interviewed Matu for one of my podcasts as well. And, it was great to find out more about his background. But Matu is a spiritual teacher. He's a guide. He's a Reiki master and empowerment coach. And he's really been working in this area for many, many years, having come from the field of business, having run some gyms and working in the fitness industry for a while, but also now moving into that personal and spiritual development for many years. Matu has a deep passion for self-discovery and for helping people grow and evolve. And I know he's somebody that really comes from the heart. And Matu also has many different gifts, which I'm sure we'll see some of today. But apart from also being a Reiki master, doing tarot readings and teaching tarot, he's a great avid follower of the Course in Miracles and runs little courses and workshops on that. But he's also a psychic medium as well. So please join me in welcoming Matu to the session tonight. So give Matu a bit of a round of applause on screen, and I'm sure he'll enjoy that as we bring him in. So welcome, Matu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And it's lovely to see all familiar faces and so many people. Such a great interest on a lovely evening.
Exactly. While it might be a cold August night, it almost sounds like I'm going to introduce Neil Diamond. I think he created an album called August Night, didn't he? Something along those lines. But look, Matu, welcome and thank you again for being here. And, it's a really interesting topic that we really wanted to chat to you about. I know it's been a passion of yours for many years. But before we get to that, for some of the people who don't know you, could you just maybe share a little bit of the background of what really got you onto your spiritual path? I know you had a path in New Zealand, and I think there was some time in Queensland, if I remember too, where you were involved with businesses. But how did you get on your spiritual path and your spiritual journey?
Well, I actually I feel like I've been on my spiritual path forever. As a small child, I used to get into trouble because I used to know things that would embarrass my parents, and they used to tell me to stop being a know-it-all because I just knew things. And the earliest memory I've got of actually practicing something spiritual was about 13 or 14 when I borrowed a book from the library on Tibetan Buddhism and meditation, and I practiced for months to meditate and also astral travel. And while I wasn't successful with the astral travel, other than almost putting a hole in the wall with my leg jumping out just because of the energy that was moving through me, it was my first experience of practicing something. And then life happened and I got busy, and I didn't really pick it up until the mid-2000s. I was getting an inkling. I'd been in business for a very long time. Went to university, I got degrees and all sorts of educational things. So that distracted me. But then mid-2000s, I was drawn to start connecting with people, because up until then, knowing my age, when I started, there was nothing like the internet. We had the rotary telephone, which took forever to dial people. But in mid-2000s, I got told to go to a shopping centre, and I was looking around the shopping centre and I noticed a notice board on the wall. And in the notice board was an ad for the Lightworkers Way Psychic Expo. And I thought, I've never been to one of those. I really would love to do that. So I felt drawn to go, and it was that weekend. So my wife and I went along, and it was brilliant, but extraordinary. I arrived it was at 12 o'clock, and Sheila, who happens to be here tonight, was actually doing readings as part of the expo. And so I went in and had a listen, because again, I'd never been in a situation where I'd actually seen psychics or mediums. I'd only read about things and practiced what I knew. And Sheila said, you need to get involved with a psychic development circle. Having never heard of that, I thought, okay, I'm not sure what that is, but I felt drawn to it. So I joined Sheila's circle, and that was literally 2006, 2007. And I haven't looked back. I sat in circle for many, many years, and I began doing platform work. I have to say, my first experience doing platform, it scared the bejeevers out of me, because I connected so strongly to a loved one who'd passed not too long ago. It gave me a fright, so I kicked myself out for a while, and I had to step away.
It's funny how you say that, isn't it? Because I know my first time on platform, I was scared to bejesus too, but it wasn't for that reason. It was because I didn't know whether anybody was actually going to come through. So it's funny, the experience we all have the first time we go out, and we're having to step into that energy and into our gifts, isn't it?
That's right. So I did step away for a while, but throughout my life I've had depression, and it got really bad around about 2015, 2016. And I was still practicing meditation at that stage, and I was sitting in meditation literally in October. I've got it in my journal, so I've gone back and checked the dates. And I got told, you have to go back to Circle. So I returned to Sheila's Circle. And then in November, I got told I needed to start doing readings and sharing my talents, my gifts. Now, bearing in mind that I was a business coach at this time with many business clients around Australia, not one of them knowing that I hear voices. So in 2017, I stepped out. I literally, on the 1st of January 2017, I ran a post in Facebook titled, "I'm coming out." Because I'm a very gentle person, I'm sometimes a bit feminine, so people think I'm gay. And so they saw that, and everybody rushed to me to congratulate me. And I said, no, I'm coming out because I hear voices when I'm doing sessions with my clients. And I had almost 40 clients at that stage, and only 2 people left because it was too weird. Everyone else stayed with me. And it just made me realize there was a place to have this sort of work within these different communities. I continued practicing meditation and doing readings and right through. But over the last, actually since COVID, since the pandemic lockdowns, I found that period was a very strong push to go inside for me. And I found that I had a stronger need to delve beyond the gifts that we have, but look more of the spiritual aspects of why we're here and who we are. So actually, it was 2018. I asked every 1st of January of the year, I do a reading for myself as to what do I need to focus on. And I got this message that I needed to take higher learning. I needed to take a path of going down to do more higher learning, and the topic had to be about metaphysics. And then they gave me the letters U, the letters S, and then a picture of a whole lot of people jumping in red gowns. I thought, oh my goodness, I have no idea what this means. So anyway, I Googled and came across the University of Sedona, that their front page, literally the page that came up was a graduation ceremony, and their gowns for the graduates are red, and they're all jumping in celebration at the end of their degree graduation. And UNS, University of Sedona. So I started my doctorate in metaphysics, and at the time I thought, I'm not sure why I need to do this, because it's very Christian. It uses very Christo languaging, and it's at the time I was a little bit anti-God, the word God, and so I was really pushed outside of my comfort zone. In order to complete my qualifications, my degree, I needed to overcome my own limitations in terms of my thinking. So I've pursued it. I'm just literally in the middle of my master's exams, so this is a wonderful respite from all of that intense thinking. But it enlightened me to the deeper meaning of why we're here, and how to work with it on a much deeper level than just giving readings.
Excellent. And thank you for sharing. And I just want to check in before we do. Can everybody see Matu on the screen? Just give me a head nod. It looks like Zoom have actually changed a few of our settings. So when we're pinning people, it's not actually showing the speaker. So anyway, Matu, as long as you can see Matu, so just give me another head nod, because he's the most important person to see and talk about. So Matu, I suppose it's an interesting journey, isn't it? The way that spirit actually guides us, and when we're listening and we're in tune and we're open. And, my question for you is, did you finally master that gift of astral travel, and where's some exciting countries you've been to?
Yes, I did. I actually, because there was a time when I wanted to know everything, and one of them is astral travel. So I did, but it was more remote viewing rather than astral travel, as in being Peter Pan and floating out of my body and floating around. I practiced remote viewing it was part of a group, so we actually set tasks for ourselves, sort of like a remote viewing, what's it called, goose hunt, where you actually go looking for the different eggs. So it was brilliant. It was so much fun.
Oh.
And I was quite shocked at how much easier it was to do, because I expected it to be difficult. And I think that's because in my childhood it felt hard, and but it was quite fun.
Excellent. Well, I know Ella's got a question for you. And Ella, while you might not be able to see yourself on the screen, because I really want to go into this topic tonight that people were drawn to and that we wanted to have a chat to you about, which is how do we hold this energy to manifest in our lives? And I know that's an area that's passionate for you. So Ella, if you're there, do you want to have a share of what question you had?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to say universe has their own method to push us to the limit.
Yes.
And apparently they know better because they above, watching us from above. So who we are to, to question this. So personally, I'm very interested with what first trigger your interest in manifestation and law of attraction. Would you like to share with us, please?
Yes, I will be honest. It was money. I just wanted to learn how to manifest more money. I was in business and I wanted to. How do you do that? And I was at the time I was reading a lot of Seth. Seth was the channeled entity. Jane Roberts channeled him and I don't know exactly when, but I stumbled across some writings by Abraham, and it was quite fascinating just looking at some of the energetic nature of which they were talking about how to manifest, because I wasn't overly into the metaphysics at that stage. I was more looking at the superficial talents and abilities that we had. But it awakened me to an understanding, okay, there's a lot more to this than just wishing something. And it was money. I just wanted to know how to manifest more money. That was the beginning.
Obviously, there's been a lot written about manifestation over the last 10, 20 years, even hundreds of years before that. But what do you believe is kind of the best approach, the approach that you kind of follow with people to guide them to how to create what we want rather than maybe what we unconsciously want?
Yes. Actually, I've been teaching manifestation type work, doing this sort of work for almost 20 years. And in the beginning, I used to teach it from a more psychological perspective. More recently, I recognized the more energetic and then the more mystical aspects, the beingness of who we are, and recognizing the deeper connection to all that is. And as part of my experience, I've realized I used to think there was a one prescription for everyone, but there isn't. There is actually, I think there are two different levels of manifestation that people master. There's a level of mind, and that's when you have got the processes of getting clear about what you want, removing any blockages to having it, and then living as if you've got it, and then the inspired action, which we'll talk about later. That from a very psychological perspective. And I think in the beginning, when people are beginning to explore their own personal spiritual beingness, they need a structure. And so at the level of mind, having a structure like that from a psychological perspective is a good thing. But then as you evolve, you realize, okay, there's a bit more than this. It's not just about practicing being in alignment with your rocket of desire and energetically staying focused on feeling good. There's a deeper, more connected communication going on between your inner true self and the world that you experience. A Course in Miracles actually teaches that the world that we're experiencing is actually a projection of what's happening on the inside. And so in order to change, it doesn't tell you to change, but in order to change the outside, you have to first change the inside. But not from a psychological perspective, but from a truly understanding your soul purpose, your soul connection, that energy that's within you. And when you change and connect with that, the outer world naturally reflects back. And in fact, one of my questions I had in my exam today was, how does the personal unconscious flowing into the psychic level of mind influence the world that you see. And it's that unconscious thought about who you are that naturally flows and attracts like energies into your sphere of interest. Seth talks about that moment where we connect into around us there are energetic...
I can't hear a thing.
Sorry, Margaret. There are energetic portals around us that when we are in alignment with our inner being, we naturally connect into those energy portals. And they are what draw to us the energetic particles that then form reality. Mm. So there are two, it's not one prescription, but it is an evolution of understanding. And I prefer to teach about being one with self, because that naturally draws to everything that you want, because our innermost mind, that universal consciousness, already knows what we need. We don't have to tell it, already knows. And it's already put things into place. We just need to get into alignment with it.
And I like that topic of alignment, and obviously coming from that inner self, and working on the inner self first. Just recently, I've been drawn to a lot of work by the great Sufi poet Rumi. And, there's one line that Rumi talks about with love is that, in order to experience true love in our world, we first need to work through the barriers we have created to having it. Yeah. Which is that inner work first in order to have it projected and received in the external world.
Yes.
But, when we kind of look at that, because, there's been a lot written about manifesting. People do different techniques, they try different things, and still people struggle. And yet we still have little things turn up, like we have these signs and symbols. But what is it that you believe holds people back from why do they struggle? That's the thing with this manifesting.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. If we could find it, we would actually do wonders. What I believe it is that at its core, there's a lack of belief and possibility. We do all of the work in terms of changing our focus and shifting our emotions and deleting behavioral patterns. But if we're at our core, we don't believe in possibility, and that is believing that we are part of the universe. It's not that we are separate doing something to the universe. We are part of it. Without that, nothing's possible. Or we can't get everything that we want. And we're allowed to have everything we want. It's sitting there. I love Abraham Hicks talks about it's sitting in escrow. It's sitting there just waiting. We just need to get in alignment. Well, I don't know where my spinning disc is, but it flew off somewhere and I'm looking for it. But it's actually, I do believe it's that deep sense of possibility. Do we believe it? The recent lectures that I've been inspired to give have talked about the rising cynicism in the world. And I do believe that we as a community need to be conscious of our own levels of cynicism that we may not be conscious of, that may be just sitting quietly in the background. And the moment we accept, and this is what my studies have actually helped me, is to recognize at that deep level there's magic that's sitting there. It doesn't need to do anything because it's already done the work. But finding it is part of the practice. That's why it's called practice. That's why we need to meditate every day, to connect in and be one with that, because that's where change happens.
And it's a powerful insight to share, that obviously it is about that connection, that meditation. And I like that essence of what you've shared of opening to possibility and just being aware that that possibility already exists in some form of consciousness because we are already one with it.
Correct.
Thank you.
So look, I know.
Would you agree that when we're trying to manifest something, we really should be in the highest of possible energy, vibrate on the highest frequency when we're approaching manifestation? And also, would you agree that we basically need to reprogram our brain and develop some new connections the neuroplasticity is very important. Can you tell us a little bit about this, please?
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. You do need to be in the highest frequency. And but one of the mistakes I made was trying to find that highest frequency without realizing, just sitting quietly and connecting to what I call the God mind within, the cosmic consciousness that's already present within. The moment you connect with it, you shove all of the outside world away, your frequency naturally rises. Yes. Because that's who we are. We're not this. We're not the spacesuit. I love Ram Dass talking about us playing in our spacesuits, decorating it. Some of us plumbing it out, maybe we're a bit too much. But this is just a spacesuit. It's not the truth of who we are. So when we sit quietly and connect into that truth, we naturally rise our vibration. But I agree with you 100%. You need to. It's very difficult to manifest anything positive in our life when we're feeling negative, because all you do is you begin to connect in with the negative aspects of life. And that's such an important thing to remember. The training of the mind, that's the neuroplasticity, is something that I've actually been reading about recently, because with the developments in neuroscience, and I've got a client at the moment who's very interested in pain management, but she's got a belief that it's actually about, there's a training that needs to be happening within the mind, and we were talking about neuroplasticity and about reconnecting neural pathways and realigning the mind. I like the phrase, you can teach an old dog new tricks. That's the whole corner of the whole thing. But it's actually something we need to do. It's a daily practice. It's about awareness, not correction. Because when I'm coaching, I always come from the place that the person in front of me is whole and healed. They're not broken. They don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
They just need to maybe learn a different way of looking at the world, which is what A Course in Miracles teaches us.
Mm.
And it's such an important aspect of life that everything, and I was literally having a conversation with my client today. He was saying that everything that's happening to me seems to be happening again. And I said, yes, and have you learned yet? Because everything that happens to us is a teaching moment. Everything. The old adage of there's always a silver lining is so true, but we have to look for it. And before we look for it, we have to be open and willing to accept, because sometimes it's not what we want.
And sometimes universally we're brought back onto that path. Sometimes it's a test just to see if we've actually learned or gone through that lesson. But it's that whole thing that the path of life isn't a direct line from A to B. It's actually cyclical, and we go through these cycles and we grow and evolve.
Correct.
And that's great. On this path, I suppose before we're getting close to handing over to you to do some deeper sharing, but you talk about the path of inspired action. And I like this little quote that, I heard from Carlos Castaneda, who said the spiritual warrior is not the one who tries to force things to happen, but the one who simply waits for the cubic centimeter of chance to appear. And then once it's there, they step into it.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit from your perspective, what is this path of inspired action, and how can we maybe embrace it in a greater way?
So inspired action is part of the 5 steps of manifesting that I practice, and it's inspired is in spirit. So when we're in alignment with the desire that we want, we naturally have a connection to the end result. And I believe in that creation has integrity, and I use the word integrity as in it knows how to get what it needs. There's a structure in it that automatically takes you to the end result. So the path of least resistance is automatically selected by the universe. When we co-create with the universe, that path is automatically selected. And when we stand in the possibility of that path, we are naturally inspired to know what to do next. It's like breadcrumbs are placed in front of us, and there are moments when we just oh, I know what to do. Or they do, rather than turning left, you think, oh no, I'm going to turn right. And then suddenly you're right where you need to be. That's inspired because you're in alignment. We, in this world today, we're so focused on doing. We're so focused on using our will to make things happen. And it's very much take action type world. That takes you outside of yourself. That disconnects you from that inner compass that you've naturally got, that knows the path of least resistance. And so you're blinded to what you need to do next. And I often use this story of a group of people needing to take a ladder to a cliff to get up the cliff to get onto the top of the cliff. So as a team, they work well together, and they're moving through the forest, carrying this heavy ladder, working together, making sure that the slowest person's the pace which they take away, and they push through this really dense forest to get to a cliff face, and then they leverage this ladder up against the cliff wall, and then they work together to get everyone up to the top, because some of them are not strong, so it takes hard work to climb the ladder and go higher and higher. And they all work until the last person standing on top of the cliff, and they stand there celebrating, and then someone says, oh, excuse me, I'm going to swear, I hope no one gets offended. Oh, shit, there's the cliff over there. They're on the wrong cliff, taking action. No one stopped to listen or to, let's go up a tree, make sure we're on the right path. So when we're taking inspired action, we stop and we be aware of where we're being guided to. Taking action is blind, but I'm here deeply aware, and here's the call forward. You don't have to choose. I've got a prayer right in front of me. I'm here to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I'm content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him to teach me to heal. That's inspired action, where you're willing to be guided. And in the noisy world of today, it's very hard not to be pushed into action, but you have to stop, you have to listen. Willing.
Thank you for sharing that, and that's really powerful. And I like that because it's been reminding me of a few things. The first thing was, the University of Michigan, when it was created, what they first did was the people who designed it just built the buildings. They didn't create any pathways, and they simply just allowed people over time to find that path of least resistance. And so if you look at a view of the map from up above, it shows, they call them choice pathways or creative pathways or desire pathways, which were what people had trodden on to actually get to different points just through the pure ease. And I think one of the things that comes up, when we don't have that structure to force us a certain way, it opens up two things which I think are powerful, is wonder and curiosity.
Yes.
Where does my heart feel like it wants to go to today? Which direction am I drawn to? And people just simply go. Yeah. And I think what you're doing is just reminding us of the need for that sometimes structure, while we feel we need it in the physical world, it has a purpose. But when we release that and just choose to be curious and wonder and explore options, but there's a magic there.
There is, and that's why I say there's two levels and play with manifestation. There's the level of mind and the level of spirit, because it's an evolution process. I got into something more than what I had, and so I started a journey that's brought me to a place of the God within, which is more powerful manifester than me, the little me. And so being in alignment with that creative process, it's a journey. It's actually a spiritual to true manifestation, because you begin to recognize the power of play, and you're just part of that process.
Fantastic, Matu. And look, before we hand to you. I'm going to actually just ask Ella. Ella, do you have another question there for Matu? Because I think we'll take one more, and then we're going to hand over to Matu and open up the floor for you, because I think we're getting ready for you to just do some sharing, share a bit of meditation, or whatever you feel inspired for. So Ella, let me get you and bring you up on the screen again.
I do realize that thoughts are things, and you have to be aware what you wish for. And also you have to be aware not to be negative and pull your energy down. But short version, how to override the old pattern, the way we're thinking, the way we sabotage ourselves. Please share with us.
Quickly. Okay. So you're absolutely right. Thoughts are things. They are processes that are in place. So being aware of our thinking. I like the Abraham Hicks approach in that they say be more aware of your emotional state. I teach the emotional compass, where the due north is the love, the feel-good feelings. The due south is the negative feelings. So because we have about 60,000 thoughts in a day, and I've done this with a client. I got them to take a box of paper clips, and every time, because they didn't believe me that they had negative thoughts, and I said every time you have a negative thought, take a paper clip out of the box and put it in your pocket. They emptied it within about 10 minutes, and it was a powerful lesson for them at how many negative thoughts. Admittingly, they were playing golf. So it may have been setting them up to actually be negative, because it's not always that easy. But because our thoughts are quite prolific, noticing our energetic, emotional state will actually give you a window into what thoughts are happening. So if you find yourself in a negative state, or you're preoccupied with negative feelings, check into your thought patterns. I do also recommend meditating, because I found I'm a person diagnosed with ADHD, and I was a Ritalin baby. I was drugged so that I would be gentle and slow down, give my mum some peace. But so as a young adult, I was so distracted. I was the squirrel type person always. But meditation seems to slow that process down. So I'm now able to recognize and be aware of what is happening more readily. The next part, I believe that you should also be willing to learn the lessons of failure, because we will make mistakes. We'll say, I'm going to do this affirmation and correct this way of thinking, and do it every day for 21 days or 30 days, whatever you choose. And it doesn't happen. Something happens, and you go down. Oh no, I failed. You have to be willing to learn and recognize that everything's only feedback. It's just giving you feedback that something triggered you to interrupt your process. Take note. The other step is journaling. I've got 15 years worth of journals on my bookshelf, and it's so valuable to help you get out of your head, put it down on paper. I carry a little journal. It's only tiny, because I don't carry a handbag. Well, I could, but I don't. I choose not to. So I stick it in my pocket, but it's small enough so that I can jot down something that now triggers my interest. I thought, okay, yeah, that's a terrible focus. I'll work on that, and I'll rework it into an affirmation that's recreating the way I wish to be, not think how I wish to be, because how you are being is connected to the manifestation process, not just your thoughts.
Thank you, Matu, and thank you for sharing that. And it's just inspired me that I might need to get a handbag myself to carry all my journals in as well. Can you imagine us walking around, us spiritual men, with our handbags, and people asking, "What's in your handbag?" Oh, I've got all my.
I used to have a man bag. I will put my hand up. I had a man bag. Yeah, I had to put it aside.
Fantastic. Well, look, what I'd like to do, I think it's a good point before we move on, is to open up the floor and hand it over to you. So I'm just going to remove the pins from us, and then I'm going to hand it to you to just be able to share with the group what you would like to share. And I know there's a little journey. And I know there's a topic that you've been very passionate about. I know when we were kind of framing this session, you kept talking to me about releasing the anchors. And I don't have a boat. So I don't know whether it's relevant to me to release the anchors, but I'm sure you'll explain. So I'll hand it over to you, Matu, to do some sharing. And if there's a question, that was Matu putting his hand up. So that's all good.
Yes, sir.
We'll bring it down. That's all good. Over to you, Matu.
Thank you. And I do have a meditation, about 20-minute meditation that I'd like to get to. It takes us on a journey to meet our true self. But yes, there's a topic which is something I was inspired to do workshops about a number of years ago. It's now morphed into facing the dragon. Releasing the anchors was about letting go of the past, because we hold on to so much of the past without realizing it. And literally releasing the anchors is that bungee cord that keeps pulling us back. It came about originally because I was seeing clients that seemed to have the same pattern, and they recognized there's a pattern, but they didn't know how to get out of the pattern. And I recognized that what they were doing was the same thing they used to do in their childhood or the young adult times. A Course in Miracles teaches us that we only see the past. We only see the past in our experiences, because that's how we learnt to assign meaning. So anything that you are looking at right now, even me, the TV, the computer, the iPad, you only know the meaning of that object because you've learnt it in the past. So A Course in Miracles talks about the fact that means that we're always looking back to the past. We're always looking to the past to give us meaning for the future, because we're now wanting to move forwards. And releasing the anchors was about restructuring that, how to cut that cord. And it morphed into facing the dragon only because there are beliefs that hold us into the past. And in my research about beliefs, I've done neuro-linguistic programming, and they had a fantastic section on beliefs and beliefs restructuring. And doing my research into the whole idea of something that could control us, that we forged when we were age 5, I discovered, and I wrote this down, the word belief is based on the derivative word belie, which means to deceive. And when I realized that, I thought, my goodness, because most of our beliefs deceive us as to what's really in front of us, because it holds us back in the past. We can only know a belief because we've practiced a thought repeatedly and sufficiently enough so it goes unconscious. And we then regurgitate it without knowing. And so we need to actually go back and, I will not say delete, because it forms part of who we are, but recognize when they're in play so that they no longer control, and, well, you're more empowered to move forward and create the beliefs that you wish to hold, because they are that fluid. You can create your own beliefs, because remember, a belief is a thought about something that's true that you've repeated sufficiently enough until it becomes so practiced you forget that you're doing it. So practice something else. And so when you're releasing the anchors, it's about letting that go. I also discovered that quite often we're not really wanting to look at what's in front of us. The white elephant. We prefer to sit like this than to actually to look straight on at what is in front of us. And that process of being aware of that which you don't wish to look at, it changes everything. Because, well, what's the phrase? How do you eat an elephant? one bite at a time. So you get to change it one chunk at a time. And you get to change whatever it is that's blocking your view of possibility. And I grabbed this. This is a quote from A Course in Miracles. Let me not bind your child with laws I made, because our beliefs become a law that we put into practice. And it says, your child is free, my Father. Let me not imagine I have bound them with the laws I made to rule the body. They are not subject to any laws I made, but which I try to make their body more secure. Because many of our beliefs are designed to help us validate ourselves, to make us feel better about ourselves, to make us feel safe, hence not looking at the white elephant. So when you actually begin to take the time to question yourself, and this is how you do it, you simply ask, so what do I believe about this? Another question, what am I assuming by thinking this? And asking and being willing to explore it to depth, because it does take time to unravel what's unconscious. I do recommend, I know there's a few therapists on the on the screen here, having someone else to reflect back at you that which you can't see. The white elephant, sometimes you're so practiced and not seeing it. Having someone else sitting there and just reflect back at you, have you thought about this? A powerful reflector will change everything. Another thing, and I'm actually watching the time because I want to make sure we have time for the meditation. Our belief in the journey is about moving us to something. And if we know where we want to go, we know who we want to be. So create the affirmations in your mind of that person. In creating that affirmation about who you wish to be and practicing them now, you have to be that. There's a beautiful book that I've actually discovered, The Impersonal Life. As you can see, it's well read. And it talks about, it's Joseph Benner, Benner. And it talks about the impersonal self, that part of us that is the connection to our soul spark or that deeper essence of our truth. While we've got beliefs in action, we cannot hear that truth because it's louder. And this book is very good in terms of deconstructing those final walls and those blocks to that presence. And you have to change the outcome, you have to accept the truth. And sometimes that is the biggest challenge. Okay. So go ahead and get yourself ready for a meditation. This meditation is a guided journey. We will be connecting with our deeper self, our true self, and listening to the wise words that it has to share. So just go ahead and close your eyes as I organize the music. And just settle quietly into the space. Taking a few deep breaths or two and relax. Just feel your back sinking back into the back of the chair. Feeling the arms resting comfortably. Pay attention to your breath without doing the breathing. You can rest assured that your body knows how to do that for you. and will continue to do so now as you listen to the sound of my voice. Feel yourself breathing in and breathing out, and notice the air moving in and moving out, and become aware or not of the sounds of the room. It's nice to begin to appreciate that you have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. And while your conscious mind can be aware of the feeling of that hand, or that book, or that foot, or the sounds of my words, your unconscious mind is aware of far more. Your unconscious mind is aware of everything happening here now, and everything that has ever happened to you. And it is nice to know that your conscious mind is so smart, and your unconscious mind also learns in a variety of ways. So you really can just let it do the work for you for a while you just let go. That's right. Just let go. Nothing is important right now except enjoying that feeling of deep relaxation. That feeling flowing throughout your body. Bring your mind and emotions into a place of stillness, like on a hot summer's evening as the sun goes down, with a calm, cooling breeze greeting the night sky. Feel the calmness wash over you, letting go of any conversations or thoughts from the day. Bringing yourself into balance now, sitting calmly and easily with your back long and open, allowing the energy to flow. Feel the breath moving in and out, noticing how with each breath your emotions become still and calm, like an ocean settling after a storm, becoming calm and peaceful with each breath. The mind follows by scanning the body and seeking out places of tension or strain, and where any is found, will it to relax, let go, to be calm and peaceful. Take a moment now to scan the whole body, from the top of the head down to the tips of your toes, feeling any tension melting like ice cream on a warm summer's day. And imagine as you are letting go, you let go of all that no longer serves you, releasing it to the universe, and allowing yourself to float in the space in between the words, easily, effortlessly floating, as we allow our imagination take us to a forest, walking easily within a beautiful forest, listening to the bird song around us, building a wonderful sensory map of the forest with the smells, sounds. Feel yourself brushing past small bushes, hearing in the distance the sound of the wind moving the tops of the trees. And as we walk calmly, easily, purposely throughout a beautiful forest, eventually we come across a path winding its way through the trees. It is clear, dry and open, and you intuitively recognize that this is your path. So you step onto your path. The way is easy along this path, with the forest on each side, the birds chirping and playing in the branches. And you hear in the distance the sound of running water, and the path brings you to a place beside a small river, running cool and deep. You find a small pier reaching out into the river. The water is clear, and when you reach your hand into the water, you feel the cleansing, cooling, healing energy of the water. As you watch, a boat appears, moving with an unseen force. It is guided to where you are. The boat has a flat bottom and is wide and very stable. On its bottom are cushions and a seat, like a gondola ready to guide you further down your path. You step into the boat. It is so stable, it hardly rocks as you make yourself comfortable on the cushions. You hear the lapping of the water on the sides as you feel being strongly supported and held as if an angel has wrapped their wings around you to support you. As you sit here comfortable and relaxed, the boat starts moving along the river, and you feel like you are floating, gliding, purposely moving along the river. And as you watch, you see willow trees standing guard along the riverbanks, occasionally reaching out and brushing you with their leaves and soft branches, as if wiping any fears and hurts away, like wiping the tears of the inner child, soothing, comforting, easing any hurt, so that your journey along the river can be free and healing. You hear in the distance a change in the sound of the water as the river winds its way down into a deep tunnel. The tunnel is large, wide and full of light as it takes you deeper and deeper inside the mountain until you find yourself arriving on a lake of calm, still water deep inside. The boat drifts into the center of this beautiful lake, and you see the ceiling of this amazing cave is covered in beautiful crystals. And as you look, you can hear the sound of the crystals sending their healing sound down onto you as you sit here, supported, held by the magical waters of this lake within the mountain. As you enjoy the magic of this moment, you see ancient temple structures standing along the shore of the lake. They are built into the walls of the cave and cover every inch of the shore. And as you watch, you see 3 orbs of light form and begin to float slowly across the water. As you watch, they form into beings of light walking across the surface of the lake. Each one is an ascended master, and they are here to serve you and your purpose, to help you and share with you words of wisdom to help you along your path. As you watch them come closer to the boat, you hear in the distance monks chanting to help the vibration of this hall of light and crystal. The ascended beings arrive at the boat and take position on either side. And as if seated on an invisible floating cushion, they take a seat in midair and begin to speak. And as they speak, you feel an inner light glow brighter and brighter, and you hear or feel a voice speaking from deep within the silent space inside you. A voice can be heard. Its loving words echo in your mind. It says, I am without beginning or end. I am eternal. I am free to experience life in any way I choose. My consciousness is not bound by time or space. Like the universe itself, I am limitless. I am a part of a vast, unified wholeness. I am free from all concerns about the past. I am free from all concerns about the future. My life is in perfect order, and it unfolds according to a perfect plan. I do not strive to attain the things that I desire. I simply allow them to flow to me. Release my grip on life. I am calm in the knowledge that all my needs are taken care of. I am open to all of life's experiences. As the moments of my life come and go, I am at peace. I do not judge these moments. I welcome them. I observe them. I accept them all. I am the universal consciousness. I am the cosmic consciousness. Be still now and know I am the universe. is filled to overflowing with the love you are feeling from the 3 Ascended Masters and your true self. The Ascended Masters sit here for a few minutes longer, and then they gently form back into orbs of light and float back towards the ancient temple. You sit for a moment longer, simply integrating into your being the messages given to you, and then with the intention to return back from this meditation, the boat begins to move once again, returning easily back along the path to this magical lake. As you move gently back onto the path and moving slowly and calmly back into this space, back into this room, back into your body, you become aware once again of your breathing, of your body. And with each step you take, you find yourself coming back into your conscious awareness of the room around you. You begin to notice your surroundings. You feel the chair under your body or the bed, and slowly moving your hands and feet, returning yourself back to complete consciousness. Your message from the Ascended Masters fully integrated into your being. Wiggling your toes and stretching your arms, coming back into your body, back into this room. Bring yourself back, and you'll take the message you've received with you back out into the world. So I say, return, 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 and welcome back.
All right. Jan, I can see you. Just give us a head nod, Jan, if you can see everybody on the screen. Does that come up for you? Yeah, good. Thanks, Jan. Fantastic. So does anybody have a question for Matu about anything that's been shared tonight, or a question you have about manifesting? If you do, you can either just put your hand up like this and I'll see you, or try and use the little Zoom hand. So either way, let's come across to our second screen. All very quiet. Oh, there's one, Marsha. Marsha, you've got a question. Yep, you're unmuted, Marsha, so you can share away.
It's not so much a question.
That's a...
It's not so much a question, but a confirmation.
Yep, confirmation's
of
good.
What Matu taught in manifesting in one of his recent, and I have applied that and had it come to fruition.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
Excellent. And, I was chatting with Ella today, we were talking about trust, and Ella was saying as well that, it's often through doing that we then get confirmation, and that's when we start to trust. So, Marsha, that's great, because, when we start changing the way we use our consciousness, obviously, once you start getting signs, you get messages, you get things turning up, it's nice confirmation. So you must be pleased with that, Matu.
I am indeed. And one of the things I didn't get to talk about was the practice of gratitude, because it keeps cycling the manifestation energy around. When you're grateful for what you've got and what's coming, or the changes that you're experiencing, it just reinforces that energy. It's just a brilliant practice.
Yeah, great. Does anybody else have anything, any other question or thought you'd like to share? I know I want to just make one observation, and you were talking about it before you did the meditation, Matu, about the white elephants, that sometimes we don't see those. Tony Robbins used to call it a scotoma, and a scotoma is that, like when you're looking for your keys and they're right in front of you and you just don't see it.
Or your glasses.
And it's funny how our consciousness works, or our glasses are on our head, or we're looking for something in the fridge and it's right there, and we keep complaining we can't see it or find it. And it's interesting that we have these perceptions. But yeah, it's true. I think, we do need people in our lives who can reflect back to us. And I remember once going to see a coach counselor, and I would just sit in the chair, and as soon as she started asking questions, I started getting my own answers. And she actually said, Les, why do you come to see me? And I said, well, if I'm there on my own, I just can't do it. But when somebody holds the space and they reflect. So has that been your observation, Matu, through your own experience?
Yes, indeed. Yes, I've many coaching sessions myself, and it's almost like you see yourself talking back at yourself, but it's that having it outside of yourself, it's much easier to see. I often think to myself how much easier it is to see what's going on with other people. So having someone who can see what we can't see is so much easier.
That's right. Anyone else got a question? I'll just go through the next page. Oh, Francis. Yeah, I like having Francis. She's always got a question to ask. You can unmute, Francis.
I'm such a busybody, aren't I?
No, it's great because we need that energy, because it's like you get inspired when you hear other people talk and share like Matu. So yeah, go ahead. What's been on your mind, Francis?
So much. Matu, it's so lovely to have you here, and thank you for the meditation. It just took me away. So I couldn't come back with a message because I don't know, I disappeared. So lovely to hear your meditations again. I suppose the question that's dropping in for me is that you sound like you're studying to do masters or what have you. Where to from here for you? Where is this leading you to next?
You know, that's a brilliant question. And, you know, a year ago, I would have been frightened by the fact that I don't know. But the evolution of this last year has been my willingness not to know. I do get a sense of there's a book of my master's thesis that I've just written. It's part of a book. The doctorate I'm about to write is also part of another book, but that's as far as it goes. And I think that's my lesson now, is that because it's beyond trust. I always say, when someone says to you, trust yourself. Well, trust takes you to your comfort zone, but we're being asked to go beyond our comfort zones and be beyond knowing. And so I'm being beyond trusting. So I'm accepting that I'll be shown when I need to know. And even though I'm nosy as hell and I keep asking, I'm not getting any information.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, Matu? Like that whole essence of, you know, you're talking about trust. It reminded me of a gentleman I met once at a church. It was a Christian church. But this man had come from Singapore. He was a financial trader in Singapore, very successful. And he got a message one day from God saying to come to Melbourne. And that was it. So there he was. He said he arrived in Melbourne and he just sat there at the airport because he didn't know what the next step was. It was like, what's going to happen? Why am I here? But I was listening to his story and I thought, how amazing is that, to trust to that level where you're not shown the whole staircase, but you've just taken that next step and you're on the way. And when you're on the way, then the way starts to unfold sometimes.
And that's perfectly said, because it's such a scary way of being. And let me share when I was practicing my connection, to strengthen my connection to my guides, I used to practice where I would actually ask them to take me places. And I was in the CBD once at a conference, and I arrived to find that they only accepted cash for certain things, and I didn't have any cash. So I said to my guides, okay, take me to an ATM. I have no idea where they are, and it needs to be, I didn't want to pay fees. Tight, yes. I didn't want to pay fees, so I said, take me to my ATM, my bank's ATM. And so I just started walking, and I felt the nudges, and I got stop, and then I felt directional changes, and then I literally walked down this little alleyway, and I turned a corner. My ATM was right there. The Westpac was just exactly what I needed. But I like doing that sometimes, just to reconnect and retune into that fine tether that we have, because we often wait for the big momentous go that way, but it doesn't happen. Sometimes it's that little voice that just goes, oh no, that's what you should do.
And I just learned something great there, because I bank with Westpac as well. So next time I need an ATM, I'm calling you and saying, Matu.
Okay.
Ella, you had a question, I know, and then I'll open up to the last question from anyone else.
I guess once we reach the level of spirituality and we align with our guides and our masters, we don't really necessarily need to know what is ahead of us. And I think also, I feel that this is done on purpose because the whole picture can actually overwhelm us, and we can sabotage the outcome. I'm talking
Yes.
about myself, yes. If I would know 11 years ago, I remember my first teacher was working with me on my pronunciation, and because he said, you're going to be spiritual speaker. I couldn't sleep for the next 1 week. I was so afraid, and I was like basically praying that not going to happen, yes. So yes, I do understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's
So,
it's such an important state, I think, that we need to get to go beyond practicing just being psychic or a medium
yes.
to that deep knowing that you are protected, you are trusted, that you are safe. That I literally say thank you, guides. Every morning I say thank you, my angels, for having my back, because they do. They sit there and they just work with me. And sometimes I'm the human, and I throw little tantrums, and I wish I would
We
know.
are doing this.
Yeah. But that's just being human.
It is, yeah. And I like that aspect of like sitting in that place you talked about, that trust and just knowing. It's the knowingness. It's funny, in your meditation, as soon as just before you started to bring in the angel, I literally could feel my hair standing up, and that says a lot, seriously.
Which one?
Because there's not much there, but I actually felt a couple of seconds before this presence behind, and I thought, and that's what we long for. And I think the last few years with all the COVID stuff and everything has threw out the grounding for people, but it's bringing us back to a stronger connection with our guides, with ourself, and to even do a meditation like yours and just sit with those ascended masters and feel that energy, feel that faith, feel that strength, feel how you're being held. That is really powerful. That's the juice. That's, you know,
It removes the separation between us and truth, what I call truth. Because we, along our journey, we practice for a while of seeing it outside of ourselves, or seeing it separate, that we have to learn or bring in. But we come to a place where we know, well, no, it never left. It was always present. It was always there. And we just needed to remember. At the end of the statements that were said, be still and know, that's the most powerful instruction we should learn. Be still and know, I am the universe. I actually say, be still and know, I am God. Yeah. Because I am an extension of God's presence. I am part of him. I'm an idea in his mind, her mind. So I've always been there. And that's that understanding. That's where we get to that's the ascendance.
Powerful words for everyone to write down, or just to use as your mantra for this week. Be still,
it's my mantra.
And know I am God, or I am universe. So look, before we finish up, I'll just check anybody else. Is there any last kind of question while Matu's here? Just checking. No. Oh, actually, Joan, would you like to unmute and you can ask your little question, and we'll use this as the last one before we wrap up tonight.
It's not so much a question, but it's just an observation in regard to what's being discussed in the last few minutes. For example, when we're asking things like wanting to know where we're heading, it's like, to me, this journey that we're on, shifting from the state of the human conditioned consciousness to the higher consciousness, it really is a matter of trusting into the higher self. And when we're wanting to know the who, why, what, where, and how, things are going to, we're actually coming from the brain. We're really not coming from the higher consciousness. And because I think it's like we're focused on the outer rather than focused on the inner. And it's like the spirit versus the ego, or the brain versus the heart. And it's like, I think the more with manifesting, to me, the simplicity of it is our fulfillment is always there. It's always, and it is a matter of trust. And it's a childlike trust even.
Yes.
And we make it too complicated.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, Joan. And before I just hand to Matu, just my essence of that is it comes back to, instead of the who, how, why, what, it's just the knowing. Coming back to that place. But Matu, did you want to add to what Joan's just kind of shared?
I agree with everything you just said. You're so right. We are complication machines. We take the simplest of things and we think it needs to be more. It just needs to be more. It's like the story of the American doing NASA racing to the moon, and they were having into the fancy equipment, but they couldn't solve the problem of writing their notes on the piece of paper because they didn't have tablets and stuff back in the 60s. So they spent millions of dollars to invent the big pen, the roller pens that we use commonplace. They invented that for the space mission. Guess what the Russians took? Pencils. They didn't need anything fancy. They just needed a good old pencil.
A good old pencil. Just what we all need. Excellent. Well, Matu, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your open sharing and your open heart. It's been great. I mean, that meditation was amazing, and I know people will go back to it on the recording and listen to it. But thank you also for really just setting a framework for this manifesting. And I know there's some deep, well, how do I put it? There's deep insights, but they're simple, aren't they, really? It's bringing us back to that place, like you said, of knowing, of basically holding a space where we're creating from the inside out.
Yes.
And, learning how to really use this amazing consciousness that we've been given. So thank you for being here and sharing that tonight.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed tonight, and it's lovely seeing everyone and meeting everyone.
It is. It's amazing. And you might just give Matu a little bit of a round of applause. We always do that at the end. My homework for you all is what Matu mentioned, is to go count your thoughts, because I want to test this idea that we have 60,000 a day. I don't know how they came up with that number, but if it's counting paper clips, that's a great practice. But definitely take away something from tonight, one insight or even that mantra. And don't just listen to what we've shared tonight. Go and apply it, because that's how things will change. Okay. So again, Matu, thank you for being here. And again, thank you for sharing. And to everyone, thank you for joining us all. It's been great to have you part of our little community tonight. I know, Ella, do you want to say thank you to them as well before they head off?
Thank you guys for joining us. And my homework for you is to manifest those 6 silly little numbers on Saturday.
Okay, that's a test.
We're going to have money to build our healing center and spiritual school. Namaste.
Can I just offer one last piece of homework?
After you, yes, homework.
There's a book by Pam Grout.
Yes.
The E squared.
Yep.
It's 9 little experiments to prove to you that the universe is listening and has your back. Exactly what you said. I don't think the numbers are part of it, but you can try that.
Yeah, fantastic. You can try that. Excellent, everyone. We'll go out there, manifest some joy, connect with that energy of love and that vibration of just knowing thyself, and put out there, because we are connected to the one. Okay, but thank you for joining us, and great to have you join us. And I'm going to give you a nice wave goodbye. Thank